Welcome back to the Icon Show, the space where we really go behind the brand, behind the breakthroughs, and deep into the stories of the entrepreneurs, the icons who didn't just survive, they rose. I'm your host, Jordan Lynae, entrepreneur, speaker, author, and founder of a movement helping women turn their voices into authority, impact, and income. And today, this conversation is different because this isn't about strategy or scaling. This is about what really happens when life strips everything away and you're left standing in a version of yourself you didn't ask to become, because sometimes the most powerful leaders are not built in comfort, they're forced and forged into the fire. I would love to introduce you to someone who embodies all of that in the deepest way. And today I have the honor of sitting down. She is a woman who has walked through the unimaginable loss, and instead of shrinking, she has expanded. And we are so excited and so honored to have you here.
Oh, thank you, babe. Wow. Yes, I'm so excited to be here. I'm honored, especially on such an auspicious day. It is spring equinox today. We are hitting the energetic reset button for this year of 2026, the fire horse year. Sun transits into Aries. We're at 0 degrees, baby. Anything is possible. Truly, like it just there's no more amazing, incredible, and iconic space than I'd rather be right here, right now to get this day started. Truly, thank you so much for inviting me on.
Your presence and your essence, and spring equinox, new beginnings, so fire and being in the fire horse. I'm so happy to have you here.
Mm,
Oh my goodness, getting into your story and the unimaginable in 2019 and 2020 to really start your legacy.
yeah. So I love the way that you made the introduction just now because this is so much of what people can miss about the spiritual path, where many of us enter from a space that is wanting to escape a lot of our humanness and a lot of the pain and a lot of the challenges and a lot of the trauma that is so real and it's so valid and it's such an innate organic aspect of the human experience. And I will say I kind of entered from the same place in 2015, literally started doing yoga because I had really severe chronic anxiety and I heard really good things about yoga. And it was holiday season. I didn't want to gain weight around the holidays. Like, give me a very sacred tradition. But this tradition would wind up changing the course of my life. And I remember, the first breaths that I took in a yoga asana class where my mind was clear for the first time in memory of my entire existence. People that struggle with or suffer from anxiety can attest to this. And I was like, oh my gosh, something's happening. What's going on here? Literally became obsessed with yoga. I was invited to my first yoga teacher training in 2015. And during the final exam of that, I have what I always refer to as a very spontaneous spiritual awakening, where due to severe perfectionism that I was not aware that I embodied, and was deeply tied to, I didn't sleep for days leading up to the final exam. I was given Dhanurasana, the bow pose. During that final exam, usually in yoga teacher trainings, you have like a 5-minute window to teach the posture to the cohort that you're studying with. Cohort of 55, I was terrified. I hadn't slept in 3 days.
My
And I just like wanted to have this script perfect and I wanted to have it memorized. I wanted it to be so like life changing for people going into this pilgrimage of Dhanurasana, the bow pose. And I got like halfway through it and I like messed up my line and my whole mind went blank and I brought it to a close really fast. I train wrecked, basically, is what I'm saying. I totally train wrecked. And I could see everyone's faces like witnessing what was happening with me in real time and feeling so much compassion for me. So I closed it down, walked to the front, go to receive corrective criticism from my teacher, Annie Carpenter, who's like the heralded teacher's teacher of the yoga world. And she just said one really simple thing. She said, "Why did you go back on what you said?" And
Oh,
at this
wow.
point, I was met with an energetic crossroads where I could either fold my arms and be like, "I don't know what you're talking about." Like, that was what I meant to do. Or I could be honest and truthful and vulnerable with the reality that was actually circulating inside of me. And I could choose to share that truth. And it was the first time in my life that I gave myself permission to do that. I was the queen of fake it till you make it lifestyle and just was all about appearances. I had a
Mm.
10-year modeling career at that point, and
Wow.
so much of it is built around the aesthetics and what things look like on the outside. And I did that. I shared my truth. I learned something about myself that I had never realized that day, which was perfectionism. And I learned in that moment that I could learn about myself. And that became like I always say, August 3rd, 2015, I will never forget that day because something turned on inside of me, a light
Mm.
switch of awareness. And I learned that I could learn about myself. And I not only could learn about myself spontaneously, I could actually sit my ass down and study myself. So that's what
Wow.
I became obsessed with doing. And I would
Uh,
sit 3, 4 days a week for 3, 4, 5 hour stints at my altar and just have my Gemini meetings. I would do my voice memo and have my journal and be speaking out loud to myself and like, why do I do this? And where did that come from? And because when you create awareness, now this framework that I've built upon the inner mechanics of transformation, I really care the most about describing to people what the process of transformation actually consists of and breaking it down these spiritual concepts in a very, very grounded, embodied, manageable, actionable, move the fucking needle way
oh.
so that you can actually endeavor this from a very conscious space. Because
Mm.
that's something else that I feel like is missing in the spiritual world sometimes. There are a lot of heady concepts and they sound really great and they look really good. And a lot of people wind up walking away from the practices years later because they're like, nothing actually changes. It's just me chasing healing, never feeling different. And it's like a very outside in approach rather than the modality that's now landed on my heart. Energetic cartography takes you on the direct opposite pathway where you're literally starting from the very, very deepest core insides of the self and
Mm.
you transform from the inside out.
Well,
I mean, I will say I didn't even touch on the question that you asked, which was
no,
like
but this
the
is
later
so
stuff, but it's
fire.
important for me to
It
like it's
truly
like
is.
the traumas that occurred in 2019 and 2020, which I'm sure I'm about to get into, but
Yes.
those were only able to be endeavored as consciously as they were and as
Mm.
powerfully as they were because I had already been on this path for like 4 or 5 years. I had devoted my life to it. And, I had forged that foundation inside of myself.
Going deeper into things and really stepping into the inside, and we're able to handle those seasons easier. Not easier. It's a different type of embodiment that you go through in those seasons. Have all
Yeah,
the tools, so everything that you trained up for to have the tools to go through.
exactly. Just like you said, it's like not necessarily easier, but I would definitely call it more
Mhm.
easeful to walk through the fires that life presents you with when you have a foundation beneath you and a solid sense of self and
Mm.
you believe in yourself. So great premise. Let's go in.
And trust and trusting, the path that is really laid out forward
Oh
in
my God.
front of you. And talking about, getting into the yoga and in those seasons, was there a season that actually kinda leaned you into getting into the yoga practice? You were talking about having anxiety was that before all of your modeling that you were in?
No, it was like during, because I
Oh
started modeling when I was in like 10th grade in high school.
my
So,
gosh.
yeah, it was really young. This year is my 20-year anniversary in the
Oh,
modeling industry. And, growing up with severe body dysmorphia from my mom's wounding and programs around body image really fed a lot of that anxiety too, because so much of the modeling industry, it's like, how many international agencies was I in overseas where, we had our weekly check-ins and you go and get weighed and you get measured every week and you get talked to if you gain weight. And it was
Oh,
just a very ingrained part of my conditioning. And I based so much of my worth on the size that I was. And it became a very controlling power dynamic with myself where I needed to be the smallest person in the room. I
wow.
needed to be like, I just had this scanner, this radar, and I controlled myself in a really deep way so that I could feel like I was on top. So I could
Mhm.
feel like I was the most powerful person in the room, so I could feel like the prettiest in the room. And then my lifestyle kind of just took a track of that because then I was in nightlife in Las Vegas as well. And I was on the opening team of Omnia nightclub at Caesar's Palace and like served Justin Bieber on his 21st
Oh
birthday,
my gosh, girl.
served Miley Cyrus. So
Mm.
much fun my life has looked like.
Living the icon life, yes.
But then at the same time, like, on the outside, right, it looks so good. Like, I remember, Labor Day weekend on opening team at Omnia, we made $12,000 cash, all of us.
Wow.
It's like these women make as much as doctors do easily, and I was partying, like, all the time, and I got a DUI that year, and
Oh,
so from,
wow.
like, the outside, everything looks really glamorous, but I remember realizing one day we work the other 9 to 5, 9 PM to 5 AM, and I remember getting home at 5 AM and seeing myself with my lash extensions out to here, and I used to use this, like, lip suction to make my lips bigger because I didn't wanna get injections, but everybody else did, and I wanted to fit in, so my
Oh,
lips were bruised blue, and I looked at myself in the mirror with my bombshell bra and my 2 sets of inserts because I was so thin, but I needed to have boobs, and just saying, like, "Who even are you? Like, who even are you? I don't know you. I don't know if I like you. I don't know if I trust you. I don't know if I respect you." So, from the outside, it looked like everything was going great, but on the inside, I was this shell of a person. I didn't even know who I was because my lifestyle had just taken me so far away from me. To be honest, there was never even like an established me in the first place. And that stems back to my childhood growing up in 18 different homes and constantly chameleoning as a child. And, it was just a really huge part of, I believe, the path that God laid out for me and why it is that my life looks like what it does today, where my entire life is devoted. My life mission is devoted to guiding those who feel a disconnect with themselves on any level to come into the core of who it is that they are beneath the programming, beneath the conditioning, beneath everything, because the you that's there is magic. And she wants to be known and she wants to be embodied. She wants to be embraced. And there's probably a lot of shit, a lot of sheets, a lot of layers, a lot of dirt, muck and grime between that version of you and where you are now. And all that is a process of transformation. It's a process of revelation, of revealing, and of embodying her. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to uncover who it is that you are.
it truly is. It's the remembrance of all the things and the uncovering. Oh my gosh, it is such a beautiful process. It shows the strength of the power of a woman when you're going through the process. The deep time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Being on, I had no idea about Las Vegas or, all of the seasons that really led up to deepening into your soul mission. You're so powerful. The icon. Oh my gosh. Women are so powerful. And every single stage of life that you go through, it's a whole new evolution. It's a whole new transformation. It's a whole new book that is written. Oh my gosh. So, leading up to those times and really embodying and stepping into your power, your icon, your era, where you're at now, the season that really shifted a lot of things was 2015, but we were going into the 2019 and the
Mhm.
2020 that really shaped more parts of your aspect. I also wanted to touch in on one of your social posts, playing the guitar and stepping into that season. Oh my gosh, I was sobbing.
Oh.
So powerful.
Ah, I love that you just weaved those 2 together too, because it's such a part of this next story.
Mm, yes.
So, yeah, I grew up in a sober home, in a born again Christian home, in a very devout, spiritual, prayerful, beauty-filled home. My parents had
Mm,
35 beautiful years of marriage together. And while a lot of the born again Christian upbringing also ingrained many religious traumas that I have had to unravel in order to reclaim a sovereignty with Jesus Christ and know
mhm,
God and my own relationship with these beautiful parts of what now guide me. Yeah, I I grew up in a beautiful home, and a part of this born again Christian devout lifestyle was that I was raised in Bible studies, I was raised in church. I loved it. There is something so powerful about witnessing my parents in prayer circles on the regular, crying, pouring their
mm,
hearts out, being held by their community
mhm,
that growing up, it felt like family.
mhm,
And the love that was forged in our family was just so pure and it was so
mhm,
alive and it was so real. I want to start right there because everyone has their own relationship with their own family. And it's important for you to understand the magnitude of this next piece, like what my upbringing meant. Not
mhm,
everyone is really close with their family. I
mm,
believe it's a very rare thing that I will see a family unit that is as close as mine was and as
mhm,
loving as mine was. And my mom had this really a beautiful trait of taking care of others. She had Virgo moon and Capricorn rising. She was
mhm,
Sagittarius sun. And she also, with this outpouring of love to others, she would place herself very low on the list of priorities. How many of us know this
yes,
embodiment within our mothers or our loved ones? And a part of that was not caring for herself in the ways that she really wanted to. And that is physically, that is with nourishment. And we experienced a very deep trauma in 2011 here, actually, right where I'm looking.
um,
This is the home that we inherited from my parents. I'm looking at the spot where the trauma happened now. My grandfather passed away very traumatically in a fire in our
mm,
backyard, and my parents bore witness to that.
mm,
And they did not seek counseling. It was a very traumatic experience for them, of course. And very, very, very quickly after that, I would say within the next 7 or 8 months, my mom's health started declining really quickly. And for those of us in this kind of world, it's like it makes a lot of sense why that would happen.
yeah, mhm,
The Western medicine world's weaving those ties together, not so much.
mhm,
But she started developing diagnosis after diagnosis after diagnosis. And a part of those diagnoses were rare forms of blood and bone marrow cancer. And she didn't call it cancer for many years. We
mm,
were told that it wasn't cancer. I think that was just a part of her own self preservation. And years go down the line. At some points, she couldn't walk. At some points, she had like exposed tendons from like her
mm,
flesh kind of deteriorating. And it was all really surreal.
mhm,
This is like during 2014, 2016, her being in a wheelchair and just like her health declining so rapidly, so quickly. And me always like, this is right after my spontaneous awakening. And I was like, naturopathic medicine, mom,
yes,
let's watch YouTubes about people who've healed cancer. Let's like,
mm,
do all this stuff. You've got this. Like God wants you to
mhm,
heal through this. And there was a part of her that just wasn't on board with that conversation because in her mind, if God didn't want her to have the cancer, she wouldn't have it.
yes,
So, push comes to shove, she winds up having this like miraculous passing of like the insurance with this cancer treatment where she can go to one of the best cancer treatment centers in the nation and It's paid for by insurance, $1.5 million this treatment.
Wow. Wow.
And her odds were 49.51, and her
Mhm.
surviving for was 49%. But she felt like it was a call from God and that it was a win-win situation for her, because if she made it through the treatment, she got years more with her family, and if she didn't, then she would die and go be with her Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, which is what
Mhm.
she literally had
Yeah.
always wanted to do.
Yes.
And she was my best friend in the world. She was
Mhm.
my best friend. I put my entire life on hold. I went to go like live with her and my dad in the hospital. The kind of decline that one experiences in the chemo and like the stem cell transplant kind of treatment, I just never even conceptualized that people could be that people could experience stuff like that. It's like all the life force is drained out of you. It's
Mhm.
absolutely horrific. Her
Yes.
cognitive function like completely went away. She was just not like herself, but then at the same time, she was herself, and that was the trippiest thing ever. It was excruciating. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
Mhm.
And her body was not able to intake the treatment. So
Mm.
on day plus 29 after receiving her stem cell transplant, she passed away, and shortly thereafter started giving us just the most loud and miraculous signs that she was good. She was alive and well on the other side. And like I always believed that if she did pass, like God would give her the most
Mm.
miraculous gifts, because she was such a devout, oh my gosh, such a devout Christian. She was
Mhm.
such a witness, and she got so
Mhm.
many people to get on board with Christianity. And yeah, she like saved a lot of people. But yeah, that was the story of my mom. And her death, it just killed me. It killed me in every sense of the word except the physical. I let myself completely drown. Living drowning is the most painful thing that you can experience, but I really just let myself completely, yeah, completely lose it
Mhm.
in grief. And also, I decided that just the way that everything had panned out and the way that I felt so guided by her on the other side, I remember breathing such a deep exhale of relief the first time I sat at my altar after she passed, because I was like, now she gets to see what I do here, because
Mm.
she had actually been really fearful of me getting into this realm. And she
Yes.
would try to have interventions with me and tell me like, you're going to have to sacrifice something to your
Mhm.
leaders one day. And I'd be like, Mom, what are
Mhm.
you even talking about? Like, what do you think I'm into? Promise you it's not that.
Yes. Yes.
But, there was this bond that was forged in the heavenly realms, where I just felt her guiding me on such a strong path. And I decided to myself, not only am I going to survive this, but I'm going to thrive. I'm going to live
Mhm.
my biggest life. I'm going to not play small. I'm going to act like this life is finite, because it
Yeah.
is. And I'm not going to
Mhm.
be here forever.
Uh-huh.
And there's something about losing your parent who's 58 years old. I was 29
Um,
years old at the
oh my
time,
gosh.
and, hadn't had kids yet. So, yeah, there was just a part of me
Mhm.
that decided in that moment, because I do have a lot of alcoholism and addiction in my family. And I was like, not me, not me. I'm going to do the direct opposite. I'm going to I came across some of her journals, and,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, she wrote me a note inside of one
Oh
of the
my
journals, and
gosh.
she said, "My Brit, I see you moving in the direction of success."
Oh my gosh.
And she just, like, poured into me in that little message, and I remember finding that for the first time after she passed. It was, like, months later, maybe years later, and just, like, her breathing life into me like that and knowing that I was gonna find it someday, it's like, yeah, no one knows you better than your parents in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, and my parents have always seen this starlight in me, and everything in me is in pursuit of fulfilling that and just realizing how much bigger my life continues getting, and
Yes.
it's not gonna slow
Yes.
down anytime
Right.
soon.
No, not at all. Not at all. Oh my gosh. Wow. Receive those special gifts and cherish, our legacy, being able to be on this podcast and sharing our stories, because our stories are so important for the legacy and those simple little notes. That's such a beautiful reminder to it's a good reminder, and it's a good reminder that I'm actually gonna start embodying and writing little notes, because, especially to children, our children and our loved ones, because they do mean so much. Words are so powerful, and whether we get to hear them physically or we get to hear them in a note, it lasts forever.
Forever. Yeah, everything about everything that they do. Even last night, I was looking through some old photos and
Mhm.
I came across this bundle of photos I hadn't seen in a very, very long time, and just
Mm.
looking at the pictures of me and my mom and continuing to kindle that relationship with her even though she can't be here with me in the
Yes.
physical. This was the path that God laid out for us and for our family. My
Mhm.
sister always said that we got blessed with having the closest, most beautiful family. We just didn't get to experience it for that long.
Mhm. Yeah.
And in that regard, when I hear some of the stories that other people have with their family and
Mhm.
the traumas that they experienced, it does make me realize that, like, wow, my family really was a rarity, seemingly, in a lot of ways. And
Mhm.
I don't just associate the Christian upbringing with the traumas and stuff. I love looking at the blessings too, because
Yes.
ultimately, I feel like that's what so many people are not even knowing that they're missing in their lives is the spirit,
Mhm.
the Holy Spirit
Yeah.
being alive in you and feeling it pulsing, and it's so much more than just things like this, and I can feel I can feel my dad.
Yes.
I can feel my dad doing like this on my shoulder. He's like, "Don't forget about me."
We're like, we haven't got there yet.
Yeah, my gosh, sometimes just sharing this story, it feels like I've told it 1,000 times, and today it just feels so alive.
Mhm.
Yeah, so my dad, as a way of coping with my mom's death, he got a Harley after my mom passed away, and that was his piece. He had always loved having motorcycles. My mom didn't really love it. But he would go ride for hours, hours and
Mhm.
hours, and it was his way of finding peace and, like, some of the only way that he could really clear his mind, just be at peace, and my sister and I were like, "We don't love it, but who are
Yeah.
we to judge?"
Yeah.
If that's his piece, then that's his piece,
Yeah.
and we supported him in that because we saw he just had such a hard time
Mhm.
being without my mom and, like, knowing how to live life without her, and, he moved from Las Vegas into this house, actually, this house that we're living in now, and one day he was on his way to his friend's house. It was 20 months and 2 days after my mom passed away, and he was on his way to his friend's house. He had just started doing this new thing where in the lostness of his life, he learned that he loved sleeping under the stars
Oh.
outside, and he would just camp out in the back of pickup trucks and just stare at the stars until he fell
Oh.
asleep. And even that, I just wanna, like, put a pin in that because it's so precious. And, like, husbands in relationships are not gonna discover that they love doing stuff like that
Yes.
if they have, like, their family unit and everything is the same every day, and
No.
so I
Yeah.
loved that he discovered that, and just, like, 5 days before this day, I was out here visiting him in New Mexico, and he invited me to sleep under the stars with him, and oh my gosh, I'm just realizing this right now. It was
Yes.
actually on Pisces full moon. It's Pisces new moon right now.
Yes. Yes.
And, yeah, so 6 months ago in the year of right
Yes.
now, yeah, Pisces full moon, it had just rained. He invited me to sleep under the stars with him, and I had just learned how to play the guitar,
Mm.
and a song channeled through me, and I was like, "Dad, I learned the guitar first off, I got a guitar." He was such a rocker, so, like, I knew that he would just love that I started playing the guitar, and he was like, "Oh, play
Mhm.
it for me." And I know
Oh.
that he wasn't expecting much, but he asked me to play it for him, and I did. It was a song called "Wild River," and it channeled through me very quickly. I thought that it was about my mom, the grief process that I experienced for my mom, and just about these wild rivers of, like, where is it that you're taking me? I don't even know, but I'm going to be present with it. The water is speaking to me. It's healing me. It's causing me to feel, calling me to feel. I played it for him that night and he was just in tears. just
Mhm.
sobbing. And he asked me to play it for him 8 or 9 or 10 times that night. And every time he was just pouring tears. And that was the most meaningful, special memory that I have with my dad in my entire life.
Mhm.
And 5 days later, he was on his way to his friend's house, and this man, a 93-year-old man who had had his driver's license taken away from him and he should not have been driving, went to make a left-hand turn and he didn't see my dad coming, and he pulled out in front of my dad, and my dad laid his bike down and collided with his pickup truck, and the whole scene burst into flames. And my dad passed that day, and the man passed that day as well. So in a period of 20 months and 2 days, I lost both of my parents, and the ground was just stripped beneath me.
Mhm.
And I just had no idea how I was gonna live, who I was gonna be. I just had no, it's these kinds of unimaginable
Yes.
tragedies that happen. And, I went through resistance for many years, probably for 3 active years. I would let myself fall apart, but I was also resisting the truth of the experience so deeply that it was causing me so much more undue suffering. And even through all of the sadness and all of the crumbling and all of the stripped feeling of just the ground totally disappearing beneath me, there was always this little nugget of light that it's like I witnessed the patterns and the programs that led to these things happening, and it just there was nothing more true in the entire world for me than to look at that.
Mhm.
And because I was so willing to look at that, it got me looking in the mirror and asking myself, now where are the places that I'm subtly sabotaging myself and not treating myself the way that I really ought to be, the way that I would truly be in thrive mode. And I decided, I want to be here to build a legacy, to do what God put me here to do, to be the best mother, the best wife that I can be. I've been with my husband for 14 years,
Oh.
and we're about to welcome our second son into the world. And, this is a huge part of my process. Like, I don't want my children to experience me dying at 29.
Yes.
And I need to prioritize my life in a way that my physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional well being is my
Mhm.
utmost priority. And ultimately, it's such a simple truth and it's such a
Mhm.
simple devotion. But what it takes to actually align with that devotion and embody it is the work of a lifetime. Two of them that one has wounding from overbreeding and one has bumblefoot right now that I'm tending to.
Oh,
And I was this close to putting them outside right before this
no.
interview, but I was like, you guys, don't be loud.
I had chickens out in the country, and I miss my girls. I call them my girls. Girls! They come flocking.
These are my two favorite girls of the entire brood. Yeah, so Nutmeg is an olive egger, and then Chip
Oh,
is, oh, I don't remember her breed right now, but they
yeah.
both lay really beautiful eggs, and
My gosh.
they're like my favorites. So I'm in here nursing them back to health.
Like, "We're here. We want you to" Yeah. My gosh. Wow. Your story, your legacy, so powerful.
It's wild because it really is like when you look into it from this perspective of the stories that have led me here, and then the way that my life now looks as a result of experiencing those tragedies and devoting myself to the highest timeline that I'm here to lead. Like, this is why I wrote my book, Hello Self, because I've experienced now
Oh,
radically transforming aspects of my identity and releasing my wounds and freeing myself from so many shackles and releasing so much conditioning and coming back to what I feel like is wholeness. Is everything perfect?
mhm.
Absolutely not. But that's the fun of this process
Yeah.
is it's lifelong. And all I want in the world is for everyone to have access to a reasonable framework that is able to be very simply applied and devoted to, and that actually moves you through time into
Mhm.
different iterations of yourself because you deserve that. You
Mhm.
deserve to know what it feels like to not feel super insecure and lean into singing if you want to do that, even if you haven't, and start dancing again, even if you used to get super bullied when you were younger, or all these conditions that have us
Oh,
living these limited
mhm.
expressions. And that's just not what we're here for. So all I want to do is help people come back into their embodied, exalted
Yes.
wholeness. It's not that
Yes.
hard.
No, no, and the confidence to be able to wear whatever the power in being okay with being completely unique, authentic, and what makes you feel so beautiful. That's another big I love your style and your authentic touch on everything. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I'm just thinking the picture. I was honored to have a book signed by Britt. Amazing. Going through the book right now as we speak, and it is fire. We're going to drop the link after the show. Must have, must read, must embody, and it's a process.
It's a process, and this is why I made the book so dynamic in its approach, because if you haven't heard of the book Hello Self, a fill-outable guidebook to map and transform your inner self landscape, I want you to know, first off, that it's a collection series. So there are going to be multiple books of Hello Self in the future. And I thought going across the self knowledge systems which are to come, meaning Western astrology and gene keys and human design and numerology, tarot, each and every one of these self knowledge systems guides us into witnessing ourselves from different perspectives and vantage points and facets of ourselves. And in my world, the world of inner self mapping, I want for
Mhm,
you to discern and self inquire about what those angles really consist of, what they look like,
mhm.
what your stories are.
Yes.
And the chakra system, which is the first iteration of Hello Self, is the perfect place to get started because so many of those systems that I just named they have a very complex framework and things, it's like with Jupiter, with Mercury, with your profile types or your emotional centers, you're guided into a bit of a like a bit of a headier realm. It's very concept based, and you need to
Mhm,
understand the concepts in order to understand the framework. And what I see so many people do is get really filled up with the concepts, and then it's like harder for them to embody what the
mhm,
information is relaying, and
mhm.
or it puts them in a box and they're like, I'm Virgo sun, and that means I'm this because
Yeah,
Google told me I'm this. Or what I hear all the time, Geminis are this, and it's like just this shadow aspect of Gemini or
mhm.
all of this. So it like loses a lot of the nuance and multidimensionality when we approach it from that space. But I wanted to enter the chakra system first because these seven inner energy centers are a part of our being. They are who it is that we are. And the relationships that we have with those inner energy centers are forged from our own stories, from our
Mhm,
own lived experiences. And so inside of this, I wanted for you to be able to gauge, well, what is my relationship like with this aspect of consciousness within me? And even if I do feel like it is imbalanced, is it deficient? Is there not a lot of energy circulating in that realm? Is it excessive? Is there like
mhm,
so much energy circulating in that realm that it feels chaotic? Imbalance is such a nuanced conversation.
mhm.
And so often I would hear people, talk about an imbalanced throat chakra, and that means you like don't open up at all. But then there's the people on the other side that like never shut up and never stop talking. And they're only interested in their own stories.
Yes.
So I wanted for this to be placed in the hands of every
Mhm.
person who values self-healing because learning what your imbalances specifically look like is so illuminating.
So,
And it's
illumi
so exciting. And when you gain that awareness over yourself, you gain a very clear focus where you're a clear area where you can focus your attention. And inside of this, I break down each of the seven inner energy
Mhm,
centers into seven commonly associated themes. So over the entire book, you have 49 aspects of your own consciousness to inner self map. And then each of those 49 aspects of consciousness has seven self inquiry questions that really dive you into what your programming looks like, how it comes
mhm.
out, how it makes you feel, what you would rather experience. Like these are all essential questions if we
Really
actually do hope to
mhm.
transform that aspect within ourselves. And then it comes with all kinds of prompts to actually take action and experience yourself in a new way and begin calibrating that energy back to balance inside of you.
Oh, I love it all of that so much because really when we're so in balance with our own being, we're able to be just our presence is so much different also. We're completely shifted, but we're really embodied in our presence, in our self, and our circle gets a little bit smaller. We learn more about ourselves.
That's why
Mm,
it's so intimidating for so many people. And, we can kind of get lost in these healing circles or moon ceremonies with other groups of people where we just come together and talk about healing all the time. But
mhm,
in your private life, at your altar, in your personal sacred space, what does it look like? And how willing are you to really presence with the uglier aspects of your being, the parts of you that you're ashamed of, the parts of you that are not the truth of who you are?
mm,
How much of you is performing? How much of you is deep in judgment? Or, there's such a real aspect of shadow work that is not glamorous at all.
yeah, yeah,
And it's very hard to face in a lot
yeah,
of ways, but it's those nuggets that it's like the deepest treasure resides in
yeah,
those caverns that you're the most afraid to enter. And I've experienced it in my life multiple, multiple times. And that's why I include 14 different personal transformation testimony stories where I can directly show you, like, this is where I used to be, this is how I applied the work, and here's where I am now,
wow,
because I really want for that embodiment aspect to come through and to be the pulse of all of
mm,
this. It's not just about some like apply a different mindset or slap a freaking band-aid on a gaping ass wound. It's like you really have to be, yeah, you really have to be willing to roll your sleeves up and get down and dirty with yourself.
yeah, yeah. And do you feel that there's a lot, yeah, you were just saying a lot of people are there's a fear around doing that deep work, really seeing those sides.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's so much easier to binge shows on Netflix. It's so much easier to literally prioritize anything else.
I call it the number. I numb, yeah. It's so much easier to numb than to do the
Yeah.
work of really stepping into your full icon, full powerful self.
Yeah.
What we have been placed on this earth to do, our mission, our impact, our legacies.
Truly. And even you saying that, it's like, I love this conversation. And you can't really have a conversation about being the icon and stepping into your life mission and
Mhm,
being your most aligned,
mhm,
embodied self if you can't also have those conversations about the deep shadows that have gotten you to this point. Otherwise, it is just masking. Otherwise, it
mhm.
is just identifying as like, I'm an icon. And I was hoping that we would go here
Yes.
because, this concept of what is an icon? What is an icon really?
Mhm,
And to me, an icon is like a legend. An icon
mhm,
is a legendary figure who even the word legend, it's like there's a timeline about it. And there's a map to what the legend has led you on,
mm,
the adventure, the exploration, the tumultuousness, the challenge, how you've risen in the face of fire.
and
And when you have those stories, it's like you're not just saying like, yeah, I am an icon. I am a legend. Like at our purest, we all are, but
mhm,
also it's like, do you have the courage to actually endeavor the adventure of an icon, of a legend? Because that's how you really land here. Otherwise, you are just performing as a legend and you are just performing as an icon. And there's nothing wrong with doing that to a certain extent, but because everyone also goes at their own pace. And
mhm,
I know that over the last 11 years, it'll be this year that I've devoted myself to this work. I haven't had a conventional job. I've had chosen a lifestyle where I can work in a way that the amount of time that I work and the finances that it provides me is exponentially greater than most people who work a conventional 9 to 5,
mhm.
or they have families, or they don't have endless amounts of hours to just sit and like pontificate over their existence. And I love that that has been a part of my story too, because it's all what's guided me to be here and to be a leader and to be a master of this realm so that I can guide others, because I know that God blessed me with so many fortunes that I was able to prioritize just diving into myself for legit 10 straight up years. I have thousands and thousands
And
and
that
thousands of hours of self-study, and
Mhm.
that's the only reason that I stand here as the person that I am today. I didn't used to be this person. I didn't used to be eloquent. I didn't used to be charismatic. My throat was severely, severely closed in a million
Mhm.
different ways. But I'm
Mhm.
only here now because I'm a wellspring of the work that I've now put into a concept and have, I'm getting raving reviews, which is incredible. And yeah, it's a devotional practice, and everyone takes their own amount of time to really dive into so many of these things.
Mm.
But at the very same time, for me, recently I was asked on another podcast, like,
Mhm.
what have I had to sacrifice in order to become who I am today?
So good.
And I'm like, nothing that I really care to keep, to be honest.
Mhm.
Like, I really don't watch very much TV. I watch Survivor, which is like my shit.
What?
On a Wednesday night at 7 p.m., you will not find me anywhere else. As a matter of fact, for season 49, for anybody else that is a huge Survivor fan like me, I was a first runner up to be on season 4.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Icon!
gosh.
Icon!
Woohoo!
I will not stop until I'm on that show.
Yes.
But,
Yes.
like, the other things, it's like giving up things that a lot of people do numb themselves with and things like this so that I can prioritize myself and be in right energy inside myself so I can guide this movement and be in integrity within it.
Gosh. Everything you said, yes, so good. Yeah. It's work and it's transformation. And just like you said, the legend, the stories, the setbacks, but really a lot of times those setbacks aren't so much setbacks. It's the moment right before the breakthrough, big huge breakthrough.
Absolutely. Yeah, hindsight is always 2020, right?
Yes.
Hindsight is
And
always.
I love how you really bring up a lot of your series and your socials where you're bringing up the different life paths and that whole aspect of how every single part of your story, the path that had happened in those life paths. That's kind of where I saw when on the journey of watching all your life paths. I'm like, oh my gosh,
That's one
power.
of the many benefits of having a journaling practice too. That's
Hmm.
why I love, like, for many of my clients who want to endeavor adapting a journaling practice, there's so many forms that there's so
Hmm.
many relationship types that you can have with your
Hmm.
journal. And for many people, they kind of just like, write like how they're feeling today or whatever, which
Hmm. Hmm.
for me, like, it's an avenue to outpour so much of what's circulating in my mind space, and to have documented now over 10 years of journals that I'm sitting diligently with the new moon and the full moon energies and really laying a conscious eye on what's circulating in my life, where I feel like it's being guided by the cosmos and what I'm choosing to do about it. Well, when concepts like numerology are easily poo pooed by a lot of people who don't understand the system and they've never
Hmm.
really devoted themselves in a way that's rooted in the foundational education of the system, in this case, the Pythagorean numerology system, single digit numbers, I was like, well, I have a shit ton of testimonies. And for personal years 1 through 9, I have, dozens. And I just selected
Mhm.
2 or 3 that I would work
Mhm.
on every single year. Because something else that I love stressing is that a lot of people really, they can overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in like a week or a month. And so from my perspective, like for today, spring equinox, if you only give yourself 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things to focus on this year, and you really, really zone in on those and you really, really prioritize those, you will transform those by the end of the year if you stay diligent with them. And imagine, even if it's only the one thing, like in
Mhm.
2017, for me, it was healing social anxiety.
Yes, and that's
Seemingly a small thing to just devote your entire year, your whole year. That's all you want to do is just one thing. And
mhm.
I'm like, do you understand how much that would change my life to not experience social anxiety on a regular,
Mhm.
daily, moment to moment basis? And I'm
Mhm.
so grateful that I love simplifying things like that, because when you give yourself too many things to focus on, there's too many balls to juggle. And as you get more learned as a practitioner, sure, you can add more because you know what your capacity is and you know what your bandwidth is and you know how to, prioritize these things, but start simple. Start
Awesome.
simple.
Mm.
The
And
simpler, the better.
the power of 1, the power of 3, the power of 5. That's so good. That's another writer downer. I definitely have to have a journal series that you
You know
bring
what?
out on.
Actually, well, no, it's amazing that you say that because there's
Because I want the journal, and anybody that's listening, make sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
okay, okay, I know that Hello Self journals are gonna come out sometime in the future, and for everyone that has a Hello Self copy right now, I want for you to know this is available to you. In 2019, I recorded a series called the Sacred Self series, and it was a three-part course. The
Mhm.
first is creating a sacred space, intuitive tools to bloom from within. And it's all about setting up a sacred space and
Mhm.
altar space in your home, what it's for, what you use the work for, what you place on it. And the second is a candle of presence. It's like a creative expression workshop where you carve a candle in a meaningful way. You come up with the sigil, the symbols that you want to paint on it, and we do a arts and crafts together.
Mhm.
And then the third is journaling as sacred svadhyaya, catalog your life story. And that was especially for the people that wanted to deepen their journaling practice. And every person who has Hello Self, flip to the back of it, there's a QR code where you can scan it
Alright.
and you get the series for free and you can sit with all three of these courses and yeah, because these are, it's just all about the foundations for me. And I want to simplify things as much as possible because I think that so many people want to do so many things, but then there's so much information about there about like how to do it or best practices or, all these things. And it can be overwhelming. And then they don't do it.
And you don't know it. Yes. Simplicity, that's really where I bring in the 1% because the 1%, it's this simplicity, it's the simple systems. And what's wild is a lot of times the simplest things are the things that move the needle.
The
We
most.
can overcomplicate it. Just like you said, it's so wild. A lot of that has to do with ego and fear, when we are about to level into a whole nother identity shift, all the things today being spring equinox, we can allow those words, the mind and overcomplicate so much.
Yeah.
Mm. And what's kind of coming right now is a lot. I love AI so much, but when you're kind of deepening into those different scenarios and you're trying to simplify, try to stay off ChatGPT or AI when it's coming to those kind of things because
Mm.
a ton of information.
I'm interested to know what you mean by that. Like, in terms of, do you mean like going into ChatGPT and saying something like, I want to start a journaling practice. How do I do it? Or something like that?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, it can spit out a whole bunch of that's exactly it. So if you're looking at doing, you go in and you're saying, I want this, this, and this, and this, and it spits out 20 different things. And then you start in the one thing and you're like, no, I'm shifting to a whole nother thing. This is the other thing that I want to do. And then you shift to the whole other thing. That was so powerful. You saying the power of one and sticking to the one thing. That was something that you had brought up probably one of your socials and you're like, this is my thing this year. It's my book and it's my everything. And that book, the power that's inside that book, the changing lives. And now to just have the QR code, on the back with the course, I think is so, it makes, I mean, it's already fire, but 10 times more fire. That, I guess, is where I was kind of saying with that, just the power of the one thing. So with the journal, sticking to the one thing. The one thing can have like the framework of the 5 things. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Getting started in a place that feels manageable and even having a barometer inside of yourself that you can you can know and become aware of
Mm,
when you're starting to feel overwhelmed.
Yes.
when you're starting to feel like, "Ooh, maybe I'm being presented with too many options." Because
Yes.
then the one thing you go in talking about becomes 20 things that you get overwhelmed by, and then you're like, "Well, I'm gonna turn my computer off. I'm hungry. It's lunchtime." You know? I've gotten lost in places like that with AI too, and I think it's almost, like, important to learn those kinds of lessons because you learn what overwhelming your system really feels like, and after months of doing that, you really can self-assess and be like, I've gotten maybe 10% of the things accomplished or less that I asked ChatGPT about, or, I actually want to prioritize in my life." And once again, when we self-inquire, like the truth is right there. And
Mhm.
if you are feeling like you can't make a decision, or you're being presented with too much information, or you're feeling overwhelmed and can't move forward, it's preventing you from taking forward movement, then, that's all great information for you to
Mhm.
sit with and
Yes.
look at with a truthful, watchful eye,
Mm.
because all that needs to happen is your own self-control, bringing your circle in. And oftentimes, like, I always have a mirror out. They're, like, right here in my thing, but
Oh.
just looking at yourself in the mirror and asking yourself what you need. It's more common than not when I sit with, whether it's group facilitations or big workshops at music festivals or consciousness conferences or my retreats or my one-on-one clients, like,
Mm.
I bring mirrors everywhere that I go. I have a Gemini stellium, and for me, like,
Wow.
forging that bond with myself through utilizing a mirror as well has been one of the most potent practices for me. So you're guided to bring a mirror to that ceremony for this very reason, because meeting eyes with yourself, and you wouldn't even imagine how many of those people I just named have never sat and consciously eye gaze with themselves. Because we have
Mm.
a relationship with the mirror, but a lot of times
Mhm.
it's nitpicking. It's like looking, like checking over ourselves. It's not just with a means to connect, it's with a means to fix. And when you come from an approach that is a means to connect, everything inside of you just starts coming up, and it can be deeply uncomfortable. But through that discomfort, if you really stick with it, you learn so much about yourself, and that bond can just be forged in such a deeper way. And for me, it's like I mentioned earlier with my Gemini meetings, with the voice memos, the journals, the mirror, like all of these, the music, the songs, all of these are just avenues for me to come
Mm.
deeper into myself and to
Mm.
experience myself and my energy and my life, myself. It's like so many people, if you are still stuck in a complex of like prioritizing yourself as selfish with a negative connotation, it's understandable to see why you run from yourself so much. But if you really, really care about the quality of your life and your existence, and you want to make it the highest that it could possibly be, some of those relationships that you have with the ideas about who you are and how important you are
Mm.
and how much you should value yourself and how much time you should spend with yourself above other people, you really have to call those into question and choose yourself again and again and again and again and again.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up because that is such a huge key is the mirror. The mirror and adding on the mirror practice, that mirror practice was such a huge tool that shifted so many parts in my personal life. Really, the love part, the love aspect of being able to look in the mirror and love every single aspect of your body, your eyes, your everything. That's such a huge tool to embody. I love that you brought that up.
Hmm.
I love that you carry a mirror everywhere. I'm totally gonna take that and embody that mirror. And well, it is funny. Being okay with loving yourself unconditionally is so important. It's kind of funny because the kids, they'll get into the car to drive my car and they're like, Mom, why is the mirror? I'm you all the time. And it is. It's a thing. It's always loving ourselves. It's always being okay. Mm, so
Yeah.
good.
I feel like even another like deeper layer in this piece that you just named is like, we can have this judgment or this perception of someone if they are open about how much they love themselves or how
Mm,
obsessed
mhm,
they are with themselves. or
Mhm.
how, like, yeah, how much they truly, truly carry that thread of devotion to themselves, to their life. And you can just witness, or at least the people will hear the words and have these judgments. But like something to really look at, if that is you listening to this right now,
Mhm.
is that you don't know where that person has come from. You don't know what their fires have looked like. And when I sit here and I proclaim how in love I am
Mhm.
with myself and how much I cherish and respect the person that I am, it's because I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, I know in a deeper way than most humans have ever experienced
Mhm.
what the equal and opposite energy of that is in terms of self-hatred, in terms of self-loathing, in terms of unexplainable, excruciating grief and pain that I truly can't imagine making it out of in one piece. I've lived
Mhm.
so many series of these energies, and to
Mhm.
be the woman that I am today is something that I will never stop shouting from the rooftops because it's like, it takes so much work. It's
It
not
does.
just me having a vapid conversation and being like, "Mhm." It's like the most real shit of life, and all of us have wounds and traumas and shit that happens to us that we allow to mar our spirit, to
Mhm.
dampen, to nullify our voice, to make us live smaller. Well, what if you chose not to have that happen and instead you were like, "I'm becoming the biggest, most audacious, most legendary, iconic version of
Yes.
myself, and just I'm gonna scream it from the rooftops
Yes.
because we all deserve this. We all deserve to
Yes.
know healing." Like,
Amen.
is that not what it is that we're trying to do here anyway, is make an impact not only in our lives, but in the lives of others? And how better to do that than by being the shining beacon and owning who it is that you are and being willing to share
Mhm.
what's gotten you here. Like, in my mind, there's no greater way that we can be of service. And those judging voices are just that. They're just like judging voices that really don't understand where it is that you're coming from. And that's not your fault or your problem.
Yes. And yeah, and being okay with the words that are spoken. That's all in that healing the healing journey. Exactly what you said.
Totally. I mean, I'm just initiating myself out of this, where in the last couple years, I had noticed how terrified I was of people having incorrect perceptions of me. And,
Oh,
just like,
this is so good.
oh my gosh, having incorrect perceptions of me and having close friends of mine gossiping
Mhm.
about me and saying that I harvest people's energy when I go live, or I'm like just all about
Mhm.
myself and all I care about is me and this, that, and the other thing. And like the gutted, oh my gosh, the gutted feelings that I would have about that. But that's one of the blessings in this too, is I never knew that I was so terrified of people's incorrect perceptions about me until I started experiencing these, gossip circles that I would learn about. And it's like I was letting myself show up only enough and only loud enough and only me enough to where I wasn't running the risk of that happening nearly as much. And
Mm.
to really get bigger, to make more impact in the world, for more people to hear my story, to bless the lives of so many, I had to be willing to go beyond that. And it's
Mm.
only when I have the courage to go beyond that that I actually do start meeting those deepest fears inside myself by hearing about these rumors and things. And it was excruciating and it spiraled me in a bunch of different ways, but ultimately it just led me back to this truth of none of my business. They don't know me. If they think that, then yeah, they don't really get what I'm about. And instead of leaning in, it's more comfortable for them to lean away. And if they want to lean away, then I know who I am and
Mm.
it's not any of my business.
No. Oh my gosh, so good. Everything you brought up today is so good. And it's so truthful. The leaning back, everything you just said. It's really when we're stepping into our true essence, our remembrance that we go through those cycles and the asking of who are we? Well, who am I to be teaching this? Oh, yes, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is my calling. But it can also be It can be really scary to show up so vulnerable with your stories that there's some dark, dark, dark stories that a lot of women and humans have walked through that is so scary to show up and be fully seen, and those moments that can literally transform so many people's lives. But it's the fear of judgment, the fear of which is silly, and that's hard to even say because but that we are in a human experience, and we're also lots of judgment, and yeah, just being in the power and being strong to remove those aspects. I always say, uh,
No, yeah, tell me. What do you always
block and
say?
move on, block and move on, because, that's something I've blocked family members, and
Mm.
that's a big one for a lot of people to do. But if they don't, and it's not that we're asking them to see the full ourselves or to agree with our true nature, our true calling, our mission, our impact, what we feel so strongly about in our hearts. We're not trying to prove to anybody. We've been placed here as service.
Mm.
And so if those the circle or family members or even close friends, that was a big one. I know you and I just came back from an amazing event, and that was a big one that, oh my gosh, I can't even remember. One of the speakers had said, her close friends at the wedding, everybody that she thought she was so close to behind her back was, talking about all the things. But yes, it is a big thing. And if we're able to remove them.
All the
Mhm.
better. Yeah, and,
Mm.
eh, this is where I feel so blessed in the experience. This is one of the golden nuggets that I was able to extract from experiencing the death of my parents because they were my mom more so than my dad, but they were fearful of the direction that my life was taking because of the devout Christian upbringing that I had and the way
Mhm.
that the church talks about these systems
Mhm.
and the just like misalignment from my mom's perspective that I was going in. And that was the second part of the note. Remember, I said, I
Mhm.
see you moving
Yeah.
in the direction of success. And then right after
Okay.
that, she said, like, something to the effect of, like, always keep a watchful eye and don't be led to betray,
Oh
like,
my
the Lord and Jesus, your savior. Like,
Oh my gosh,
you
chills.
know, it was this kind of harping on the path you're on isn't right, and I hope you get on the right path. And I believe that God knew that those kinds of ties were circulating within us, and that the mission that I'm here to fulfill is it would be much easier walked, and maybe I don't even know who I would be
Mhm.
if my parents
Yeah.
were still here. But I
Yes.
imagine that it would have I definitely wouldn't be exactly where I am right now, and I
Yes.
know that, like, I was such a good girl that I didn't
Mhm.
wanna disappoint my parents, and I do
Mhm.
believe it would have been incredibly difficult for me to really forge my own path, and I could have been excommunicated from my parents, who knows? Like, I really could
Yes.
have. I could see
Wow.
my mom doing something like that in righteous
Yes.
conviction for sure, and I
Mhm.
believe that when they transitioned to the other side, it's like God just knew that this was a part of the soul contract that was gonna serve me and my mission the best, and, my parents experienced the things that they did in their own deaths as a result of the choices that they had made in their lives, so I have made peace with all of it, that my parents were supposed to experience those things due to the soul contracts and the karmic ties that they had in their
Mhm.
lives, and as a result of that, I'm also benefited because they're much more powerful guides for me on the other side
Mhm.
without the egoic attachments and whatnot.
Yes.
And they can witness the purity in the mission. And it's like the ways that I'm guided by my parents, just even to this day, it's been 7 years since my mom passed, 6 years since my dad passed. And the guidance is still just as loud as it was right I trust that. I trust
Wow.
that things have unfolded like that. I trust that I was meant to go through those fires. I trust every time that I've melted into a pool of I'm never getting up again because I'm too sad that my parents aren't here. People that have lost people close to them
Mhm.
know that the ache doesn't ever necessarily get less. It just, your whole life or your heart grows bigger in order to be
Mhm.
able to hold the level of grief. it's tough. I still cry
Okay.
all the time. I just cried yesterday, like wanting my mom.
Yes.
I'm about to birth
Mhm.
my second son. I always
Mhm.
knew that my mom was going to be there. They were going to be the
Mhm.
best grandparents in the world to my kids. And neither of my parents have gotten to meet my children. And that's a really hard thing for
Mhm.
someone like me with a family like mine. And it's all just a part of the alchemical soup that God had
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
mind for us. And I trust it. As sad as it
Mhm.
is, it's like, that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm here to emote. I'm here to not nullify the pain. I'm here
Mhm.
to live in the vastness of the human experience. And for me, I don't just want to experience the love and the light and the joy and the peace. I want to know the depths and the waters and the oceans and
Mm.
the hardships.
Mm.
Like, for
Mhm.
me, that's every bit what makes me feel as alive as I am, is when I get to experience the vast spectrum
Mhm.
of this human existence, of the frequencies that this human existence has to offer. There's something
Mm.
that's just as sacred and holy about being in the depth of, like when you're really, really sobbing so hard and you're like
Mhm.
at the end of that breath, you're like, and there's like something about the depth of that breath where you just feel so much pain and it's so awful and you feel so empty and it just feels so big. There's
Mhm.
something just as sacred about that moment before you inhale your next breath as the peak life experience of like when my son takes his first breath in this world. Like, they live
Wow.
on the same
Mm.
neutralized energetic pulse. Like, I
Mm.
don't just want to experience one without the other. I'm here to experience it all. And
Mm.
for me, neutralizing energies, and we go into this in the book, learning to neutralize energy and see all of them from a space of value, like how valuable they are to really like feeling in this
Mhm.
human life, it helps you to remove the pedestal and the hierarchy of like, that's good and that's bad, or I want the love, but I don't want the pain. Like, it just creates a
Mm.
level playing field so that we can accept more easily the shit that comes with the light.
Gosh.
I could be here all day.
Yes, I know. We could literally go on forever because this is just so dropping so many golden nuggets and so much fire. And it's the trust and it's all the truth. I call it the SHIT. It's going through the shit, but when the calling and have these big missions, there's a lot of shit and really hard times that go through. Wow, incredible. My gosh. Well, I would love to ask because I know that we could go on forever and this is so good. So we're gonna have to have you back on the show. Um, especially the journal and all the things, you know.
Absolutely.
What if there was one thing that you would love to leave the audience with today? What would one thing?
Every single thing that you've experienced in your life was meant to happen. It's there for a reason, and it has a lesson for you that is immense, especially the things that you resist. They all have lessons. They all are opportunities to grow. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. All the damage, all the marred energy, all the rusty shit, all the embarrassment, all the shame, all the judgment, all of
Mhm.
it. All of it. There's so much gold in each and every one of those little shadow facets of the self. And all of that fragmented energy, which is at the end of those ropes of the
Mhm.
shadows. All the fragmented energy wants to be welcomed back into you. And the version of self
Mhm.
that is that woman that's holding all the stuff that she had known fragmentation from, she is the high self version of you that you're connecting with in your meditations all the time. It
Yeah.
takes work to reconnect with her, but she is the ultimate version of yourself and she wants to be reclaimed by you.
Mm.
And she's
Oh,
able to be reclaimed by you too.
Wow. 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 Give it up. Yes. She wants you to be reclaimed. She wants the higher version self. She wants to be remembered. Such a beautiful statement to end this amazing episode today. Oh my gosh. And we will be dropping book link underneath. Make sure to once you purchase your book to grab the QR code on the back. That is a must. What an honor, true honor to have you here today with us, icon, and all the emotions that came with it and the full bodied energy that you have. Incredible. I just want to leave today that you don't become powerful in spite of what you walk through. You become powerful because of it. And the fire didn't come to destroy you. It really came to reveal you, to refine you, to introduce you to the version of you that can hold more, land more, and be more. So if you're in a season right now that feels heavy, uncertain, or like everything is shifting beneath your feet, trust that something greater is being built within you because you're not breaking, you're becoming. And we're so honored to have you all here today. Make sure to follow the Icons Show so you don't ever miss another episode because this space is really here for lead voices are activated and stories are just becoming movements. And we will see you on the next episode. Thank you again so much for being here. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.